Welcome back. If you've just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 on Channels Television, coming to you live from Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Federal High Court in Lagos orders return of $793 million hidden in 7 banks to the federal government's Treasury single account. Former Vice President Atiku Abubakar clarifies his position on restructuring, insists proposal is to ensure Nigeria's unity and development at the local level. National Economic Council recommends new criteria for disbursement of ecological funds to states. And UN raises alarm over worsening drought in North Korea, says children and the elderly at great risk as country faces severe food shortages. Just to remind you now that for more on our top stories and others, please visit our website, channelstv.com and youtube.com/channelsweb. And log on to m.channelstv.com to watch us on your mobile device, or download the Channels TV app for Android, iOS and Windows devices from their respective stores. The Channels TV and Channels 24 app will give you access to news and updates. You also have access to the iWitness feature, with which you can share those pictures, videos or news of happenings around you. Just install the app, then tap and swipe to reveal the menu, then follow the instructions. To those eyewitness pictures for the day, we have a number of them on bad roads, I'm afraid. Let's begin with this one from Agbara Aton Road in Ogun State, showing a fallen truck. Our eyewitness reporter says this has been the trend for years and the road needs urgent attention. Next is this picture from Imo State showing a bad road. According to our eyewitness reporter, this is the only access to Ukumubia Road, and he's calling on the immediate attention of the government. And here's one from Edo State showing a bad road, which our eyewitness reporter allegedly claims is a death trap. He's appealing to the state government to do something about it. We end with this image from Owerri in Imo State showing a flooded road, and our eyewitness reporter says the drainage system should be fixed as soon as possible. Thanks a lot for your pictures and being part of the news tonight. A growing source of concern that divides people and societies is the use of hate speech through the social and mainstream media. Now, it's the trend the Channels Academy is working on in partnership with the Peace Media and Peace Tech Lab, and it hopes to check this in the coming days. The director of Peace Media and Peace Tech Lab, Theo Dolan, who was at the launch of the Channels Academy, speaks on ways this trend can be reduced.
With the launch of the Channels Journalism Academy, we can integrate hate speech training into the Academy's curriculum. And that's what we're hoping to do. We'll be in discussions about that. And I think this is something that professional media can learn more about as well, because often journalists across the country are encountering interviewees who are talking about hate speech, and even opinion columnists are sometimes using hate speech. And it's obviously very dangerous, especially when it's coming through the mainstream media. And first, there need to be effective laws in place to govern hate speech, and secondly, there has to be the proper enforcement, and so that often is lacking. For example, in South Sudan, that there aren't effective ways to regulate hate speech. So that needs to be in place. But I think the most effective way to address, especially hate speech on social media, is for social media users to address it, either by reporting the instances to the technology companies, or by taking steps themselves. For example, shaming those in large groups of people, by shaming those people who are actually perpetrating hate speech.
Rights group Amnesty International says suspected Boko Haram fighters have been brutally tortured by security forces in Cameroon. The group says in its latest report that the suspects, including women and children, were beaten, waterboarded and forced into stress positions. The cases allegedly happened between 2013 and 2017, and dozens of detainees died as a result. Boko Haram frequently carries out attacks in the Central African country, and the Islamist group once had a stronghold here in Nigeria.
This video shows that, that there's people who we believe to be people who are suspected to have supported Boko Haram, being dragged through the school ground, being beaten, being put into extremely painful stress positions. And this video, we can see the soldiers in it, we can see the units that are there, and these very much match with a number of other testimonies we have from this same school that says that people were held there, which is an illegal detention site, and then they were tortured there, often for weeks, before being transferred to other military bases. What we see in this part of the video is a common experience for people who are detained at the Salak military base, which is the headquarters of the BIA, one of Cameroon's elite army unit. So what we've seen is a much more brutal treatment handed out to people who've been arrested, often without evidence, suspected of supporting Boko Haram. We've seen many testimonies of people who've been put in agonizing stress positions with their hands and their feet tied behind their back, left for days out in the open and savagely beaten. Also people who've been drowned and electrocuted and had their fingernails pulled out. These are really extreme treatment that's been meted out to these detainees, and they've been kept in quite horrific conditions, cramped cells, and not been allowed to be in contact with their family or their lawyers, often for months at a time.
Meanwhile, Cameroon has rejected the allegations by Amnesty International. The Cameroon's Information Minister, Issa Bakare, says the security forces were fighting to protect the physical integrity of Cameroon, and there is no need for the army to kill innocent civilians. He added that in making the allegations, Amnesty International has become a tool of Boko Haram propaganda. Now let's get a bit more insight into this story now. I'm being joined on the news at 10 by a retired Commissioner of Police, Mr. Emmanuel Ojukwu. He joins me live from Abuja. Thanks so much for joining me on the news at 10 tonight.
Good evening.
All right, now you've seen heard the report, and what do you make of the images and this disturbing video that we just saw? What do you make of the report from Amnesty International?
Yeah, you said the correct thing. The images are disturbing. They are quite gory and inappropriate. But that's just a video. It could be manufactured by anybody to create an impression that the troops are violent, vile, and wicked. I do believe that the authorities involved are going to screen the video, analyze it, and then if they find any of the troops wanting in terms of inappropriate behavior, it will be dealt with accordingly. But it's not the first time Amnesty International is airing such things, such clips. I think the aim is to discourage our troops from fighting, dampen their morale so that Boko Haram will win. But it will not work.
But what would you say is your own position on the use of torture in the fight against terrorism? I mean, you've seen the response from the Cameroonian government there, talking about fighting for the territorial integrity of their country against the brutality they're being accused of. So what is your position on the use of this sort of terror, you know?
Torture is a no-no in every situation. There's a United Nations Convention against torture, against cruel, inhuman activities or acts against human beings, whether in a war situation, conflict situation, or whatever, even when there's violent crime committed. There's official policy on torture is no. There's prohibition against torture. That is it. And so there's no way, I do know that you don't have torture as part of the curriculum in training institutions in military or in the security forces. It's not part of the curriculum, so nobody's trained to do that. But where somebody goes out of his own to get involved in such malfeasance, indiscriminate torture of human beings, to use a third-degree measure on people, he will carry his cross. He will carry a cross. But there's the official policy on torture is no. And I do know Nigerian police, Nigerian security services, they operate in a professional manner, and they do what they're asked to do in line with the rules of engagement.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Emmanuel Ojukwu, for joining me and sharing your thoughts on the news at 10 tonight. I'm going to continue in our Abuja studio. Here's Ibrahim Adra. Ibrahim.
Hello, Ijoma. Now, call it a U-turn, and you may not be wrong, as the Senate today confirmed the appointment of 8 resident electoral commissioners. The confirmation is coming after the Senate resolved not to confirm any nominee from acting President Professor Yemi Osinbajo until all the issues regarding confirmation of appointments are resolved. However, the Senate President Bukola Saraki explained that the Senate would only limit confirmation to the agencies stated in the Constitution. Our correspondent Linda Akigbe reports.
A holistic investigation into the activities of the Nigeria Customs Service.
On Wednesday, July 19th, the Senate listed the names of 12 resident electoral officers on the other paper of the same day, which acting President Yemi Osinbajo sent to the upper chamber for confirmation. At Thursday's plenary session, the chairman of the committee on INEC presents the report of the committee, which screens the nominees for the position of resident electoral officers. But a federal lawmaker, Senator Naya Baribe, reminded the Senate of its earlier decision not to confirm any nominee sent from acting President Yemi Osinbajo until the controversy relating to the confirmation of nominees are resolved. However, the Senate President made a clarification.
Reports in the newspapers that the Senate has soft-pedaled on the resolution by the Senate with regard to confirmations coming from the executive.
What we said was that anybody that is explicitly stated in the Constitution, either if you go to section 153 of the Constitution or even section 171, reference to ambassadors and ministerial appointments, that those are the only ones that we would continue to consider. And the INEC is one of those that is under 153 subsection F. So just to reassure you that we have not moved away from this resolution.
The Senate's decision to suspend the confirmation of nominees was in response to remarks purportedly made by the acting president that the Senate has no powers to confirm nominees apart from ministerial and ambassadorial nominees. Following the clarification made by the Senate President, the Senate on Thursday has gone on to confirm 8 resident electoral officers, but the upper chamber put on hold the confirmation of 3 of the 12 nominees and rejected the nominee from Niger State.
Professor Mustapha Zubairu was rejected for the reasons being that he hails from the same local government area and senatorial district with a serving national commissioner in the Independent National Electoral Commission.
Meanwhile, the Senate has passed through first reading a bill for the establishment of a Nigerian Financial Intelligence Agency. The introduction of the bill is in response to the suspension of Nigeria from the international organization, the Egmont Group of Financial Intelligence Units. According to the Senate, it is indeed the absence of an independent financial intelligence agency which is the crucial reason for the suspension of Nigeria from the group. Linda Akigbe, Channels Television News.
Thanks a lot, Linda. And away from the National Assembly, the European Union is committing 15.5 million euros to help Nigeria tackle the challenges of migration and reintegration of migrants between 2017 and 2020. The head of cooperation at the European Union office in Nigeria, Mr. Kurt Cornelis, made this disclosure at the launch of the Initiative for Migration Protection and Integration in Abuja. She said the funds will be used to strengthen migration governance, among other purposes. Diarrhea-related deaths among children under 5 years have reduced by 60% across Nigeria, and that is according to the National Primary Healthcare Development Agency. The agency is meeting with development partners to review an initiative that promotes the use of zinc for the treatment of diarrhea among children. The Director of Administration at the agency, Mrs. Aisha Abubakar, explained that the intervention has the ability to prevent 90% of diarrhea-related deaths among children. And when we return, Acting President Yemi Osinbajo seeks transfer of 135.6 billion naira to finance critical priority projects in the 2017 budget. That's on Business News. Do join us again.